Today, I want to talk about agency. In October of last year, me and a couple of classmates delivered a presentation at a philosophy conference where we were talking about the efficacy of AI therapy bots, but somewhere in that, the topic of agency came up, and I made the claim that not every person is an agent. That is to say, not every person has agency. And this philosopher that was at that presentation, Daniel Hutto, which, not to call him out, but by the way, we read some of his books to prepare for that. So it was pretty surreal for him to be there and to call us out for this. But he called us out and he said that that was a quote unquote disturbing idea. And so I kind of want to delve into it, break it down, because at the time I thought, well, this guy has written a bunch of books. This guy has a PhD. I can probably trust his opinion on this. I'm probably wrong on this somewhere. But after I've thought about this further, I really don't think I am. And I think this claim that not everyone has agency is a bit shocking. So we're going to break it down. First, agency, I think, can better be defined as a spectrum. Instead of being a black or white thing that you have or don't have, I think it's more of a spectrum. And I think it can be pretty similar to the concept of will, which is the power to exert will over your life to change it, over your life, over your immediate environment. And as far as agency matters, I think it can better be defined as a spectrum with people having little to no agency. That would be people with extreme levels of depression versus people that are high agency. That is, people who take a lot of personal responsibility, people who really take a third person point of view on their life and really exert will on their life to mold it the way they want to be. And I think if I phrase it like that, it's sort of a no brainer. That, like, yeah, obviously, just because you're a human being doesn't mean that you have agency. And also, if we were to look at the spectrum with least amount of agency and most amount of agency, it's obvious not everyone that quote has agency has the same amount of agency. You know what I mean? So let's break it down. I'll use myself as an example. A moment where I really exerted my agency was that I used to be really, really skinny. You may look at me and think I'm skinny now. You should have seen me before. I used to be extremely skinny, underweight, and I exerted will over my environment. I exerted will over my body, and I got to a better body composition. And I've met plenty of people that aren't happy with their body composition, whether they're too skinny or too fat or whatever, and they cannot find the agency to they cannot find the agency to fix it. And the thing is, this is where most people would come with the argument of like, oh, well, maybe they're doing worse than you financially, maybe they don't have enough time. That's obviously not true. Because are we really going to argue that every single person who is fat, that doesn't want to be fat, has less time than every person who is fit? Because that is a ridiculous argument, and I don't think anyone believes that. Secondly, there's always time. This isn't a motivating you to work out video, but seriously, if you really want to fix your body composition, how about you drop and do some push ups right now? How about you use your agency to sign up for a gym membership? How about you use your agency to frickin' look up a 30-minute workout routine? You're telling me you don't have 30 minutes? I'm sure you spent 30 minutes literally doom scrolling Instagram or doom scrolling Twitter or whatever. So, this idea that agency, oh, every human being has agency, it's technically true in that every human being has will, but it's like, to what extent can you exert that will? That's really where agency comes in. There's some people that can change nothing about their lives. And then there's other people that, for example, they're in a bad financial situation and they can exert their will, they can use their agency to take the steps to fix it, whether they go to college and get a job, or whether they start a business, or whether they write a book and publish it and market it, and whatever. There's levels of agency, there's levels to this. And there's people that clearly exert their agency more than others, especially nowadays that we live in a time where any information you could ever want about anything is literally at your fingertips. Any information about anything in the world is immediately accessible to you. So, really, agency becomes a big determining factor in the quality of your life because you may not be happy with your current fashion style, your current sense of fashion. You may think you don't like the way you dress. You can always download Pinterest and scroll and get an idea. You can always watch fashion YouTubers. You can always contact a stylist. You can always analyze the wardrobes of celebrities. That's agency versus somebody that just dresses poorly and accepts that they dress poorly and does nothing about it. You have somebody that takes initiative, takes action, uses their agency to exert will upon their life to change it. And you can do this with literally everything. Say you have heart problems. There's a low agency person that just accepts it and deals with the side effects of it and deals with having heart palpitations and whatever. And then there's a high agency person that takes steps to counteract it. I'm not saying that the high agency person will fix it necessarily, but just that they'll take steps to minimize the harm. They'll take steps to exercise, they'll take steps to maybe take some over the counter supplements that are good for them. They'll take steps to increase their situation and make it better. And I think agency can be a lot better understood through this dichotomy. So I think this idea that not everyone has agency is disturbing to maybe a philosopher because they would think like, oh, well, they would extrapolate further, right? And they would say, well, do you really want to legislate according to this newfound truth that not everyone has agency? But nobody's saying that people with less agency should have less rights, for example. Nobody's saying that these people deserve less. Nobody's saying anything of the sort. We're just stating plainly some people have more agency than others. And I think even just having an awareness of this can increase your agency. You can realize that there's always power that you can exert upon your environment and upon your life to fix it, to make it better, to increase the quality. That can always be done. And I thought about it for a few months. Not that this video has been planned for months, but I've just been ruminating on it a little bit, for better or for worse. And I've thought that it's really ridiculous to say that's a problematic idea, because it's really not. It's really just like a plain fact of life. I think to give him some credit, I didn't state that there was a spectrum to agency. All I stated was that some people have agency, some don't. And if you take that literally, then that means that some people literally have an inability to exert will upon their life, which I can see how that's problematic. I think it just comes down to like a miscommunication as far as why this was seen as such a bad thing that I said. Because really, if we look at it as a spectrum, I don't think anybody can argue against that. I think we can only really argue against it if we were to say that there are people that have no ability whatsoever to exert will upon their life. Which I guess then there's a case to be made for people that have been like in freak accidents, people that have major extreme disabilities. There's arguments to be explored there, but that's to take some weight off of Mr. Daniel Hutto because that is how I phrased it. That some people have it, some people don't. Not that it's a spectrum. So that's it for this video. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'm really, really curious what you guys have to say. Am I crazy? Am I not? I don't know. Let me know.